Next up, the Kentucky man. This one has people perplexed. And why is that, Matt?
I mean, I don't really know. I've never been too high on Levis. I think he's had some turnover issues. I think I just don't see what some of these other scouts see of him being. I mean, we were talking about earlier how he could go top 3 in the NFL draft this year just a few weeks ago. We were saying that he could go to the Colts and he could be available for the Colts at 4. I mean, I I don't know. I just don't see what everybody else sees. I don't think he has that like it factor that some of these other quarterbacks in this class have. He doesn't have the outstanding accuracy. He doesn't have the outstanding athletic ability. He doesn't have the crazy arm strength. He's a good quarter, and I think he can be a solid NFL starter. Don't get me wrong. It's just I don't see him as that superstar that some people were pointing him out to be. I mean, I think he's definitely going to be a person that comes out and sits on the bench to start his NFL career. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't see what everybody else sees.
I
But
mean, I
you never
definitely,
know.
I definitely agree. I mean, the big knock that I see on him, I think he's a one-read quarterback. I think he's a see-it, throw-it quarterback, which obviously are two huge negatives to have from a guy at this level, especially when you want to be a potential franchise quarterback coming into it this year as a rookie. And for me, the big thing that has caught my eye with Will Levis, and I really heavily at the beginning of the year and the beginning of this process was mocking him to the Indianapolis Colts. I thought I hate saying fit an NFL mold, but a big, strong frame and a huge arm talent is what captivates people. It's what captivates
Yep.
the older owners of the league because that's what the NFL for the old owners is. A guy like Josh Allen, who really
Yep.
came on as a prospect because he was big, he was strong, a huge cannon of an arm. And Levis has that. You can zip throws anywhere on the field. And the other thing that a lot of teams like, the old heads in the league, is the pro style offense in college. In terms of a more
Yes.
college offense, Will Levis in Kentucky ran a pro style offense, a system that was based on timing, based on the rhythm. A lot of what you see out of the Peyton Mannings, the Tom Brady's, those types of offenses where you have a pocket passer who does his job, does it well, and he's not flashy, not splashy. And the NFL's moving away from that. Whether some of these old owners like it or not. I thought Jim Irsay was one of those old owners who was going to try to stick to that and come away with the Will Levis in this year's draft. But I mean, I can definitely see why there's a split and disconnect in Will Levis's game. That's really captivating scouts and analysts out there in terms of evaluating this guy. I mean, we talked about it. This guy could be the top quarterback in this year's draft, and he could go
Yeah.
one. Back a couple weeks ago, and it's so interesting to see during the draft process year in and year out how all of a sudden a vendetta starts building against a certain player where everyone starts leaning on the same thing as you get closer and closer. And it seems like Will Levis is that guy in this year's class.
And I don't think there's any way that Will Levis should be drafted above any of the other 3 guys that we've talked about so far. Over the past 3-4 years, there's always one quarterback that I think is going to that gets drafted in like the 5th round or later that I think is going to be better than the top 5, and there's always one guy in the top 5 that I think is going to be worse than everybody. Last year it was Brock Purdy and Malik Willis as the 2 guys. This year, Will Levis is the guy that I just don't like. I just don't think he has that it factor that you need to be an NFL starting quarterback and a franchise player. So we'll see what happens, but I think he still will be selected in the top probably 15 of this year's draft.
So now let's get to some tape on Will Levis. Let's just see, on the field, some of these things that we were talking about with this pro style offense. Still, here right at the bat, a lot of the boots we just saw from, the Anthony Richardson tape in Florida. Big plays there after the catch from Kentucky. But, a lot of standing in the pocket, strong, laser arm, getting, ripping the ball out, hitting his playmakers in some big situations, and not doing a lot outside of the pocket from Will Levis. He's definitely your traditional pocket passer in this year's class that, there's teams out there that like that. There's teams out there that want more than that. So it's going to be interesting to see who really captivates with this guy, who, levitates more toward him and gravitates more towards him. And there's a big player there, going Superman mode from the 8-yard line, trying to make it into the end zone. Interesting call by him, but we had to put that one in there. I love that play by him. No reason to be making that kind of move, but now we see some rips over the middle of the field. Hopefully get to some of these deep balls as well. There we go, sliding around the pocket, lasered one deep onto the side, left sideline. But yeah, a lot of red zone work as well, which are a lot of the short yardage touchdowns we see in some of these big games that he was able to have. Now he has some tape from the Georgia defense, one of the top defenses in football. Consistently drafts. They're still going to have 3 first round picks again potentially this year off that defense. They're just absolute maulers. It's a good indicator of seeing him make big plays against a big defense is good transitions of terms of what we're going to see at the professional level against some top caliber defenses from Will Levis.